Welcome back to Tom's DIY Garage. We're out in the open. We're not in the garage. We're in a neighborhood in Greatwood, Sugarland, and I am with William Ferguson, who wears a couple of hats. He's a Sugarland City Councilman.
Yes.
That's not what you're doing. You are the owner of a fence repair and building company.
Fort Harris Fence Company, yes.
Fort Harris Fence Company.
Yes.
And you are busy after Hurricane Beryl. Tell me.
Busy is an understatement. So I will tell you, I feel like not busy, I feel overwhelmed. I think all of my contractor buddies that do fencing, they are overwhelmed. The phones are blowing up because there's so much wind damage from this particular storm, and then the supply chain's broken. You can't get the lumber you need. I mean, the list goes on and on. So it's overwhelming.
I want to talk about all of those things separately. This storm, as we were watching it come, it slowly ticked its way toward Houston and the metropolitan area. The eye pretty much went over.
It did.
Right where we're standing right now.
Sure did.
At this point, as we had this discussion a week ago.
Yes,
today.
correct.
And so the strongest winds were right here.
That's it.
This neighborhood, it's 25-ish
25-ish. There's 4,200 homes here.
Yeah. And a lot of these are original equipment fences.
There are, a lot of them are, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So how well does a 25-year-old Texas residential fence stand up to a Cat 1 hurricane?
Well, I'll tell you, there is a way for your fence to last a little longer, and that is keep the base of the posts dry. If you notice your fence is always standing in water, God is my witness, it's going to blow over one day because the posts are just going to rot out. And if you go through the trash that we leave behind, well, you can see some behind, you can highlight in a minute, they're just rotted out posts. So even though your pickets and your frame may still be good, even after 20, 25 years, the posts are done. So
with a hurricane blowing through, it didn't take a whole lot of force.
It doesn't take much.
Yeah.
Yeah, when the posts are rotted off, it doesn't take much at all.
So you talk about your phone blowing up and all of your competitors.
Yes, everybody.
Yeah. So you were not. How surprised were you? Let me start with that. How surprised were you when the calls start coming in and say, "I got a fence that needs fixing, repairing"?
Well, to be candid with you, I was, and I shouldn't be surprised. I've been to so many storms. I was really surprised at the quantity of calls. Usually we may get 60, 70 calls. We're getting 260 calls. I mean, it's been unbelievable. Now, I think I know why. There were a lot of fences that needed to be replaced prior to the storm, and they were really weak. People economically just hadn't made those decisions. A storm helped them make that decision. And then to add to that, you had no power. The reason that comes back to me is your labor force kind of disappeared to take care of their own families. So it narrowed down the companies, those that are available, to even do the work. So now, thankfully, the power's coming back up all over. Our labor force is coming back. Supply chain's still a little broke, but it's going to recover.
Let me ask about the supply chain, because after the news world, I'm going to pivot that over there. The news world says we keep talking about the derecho, the May storm that came through, and it meteorologically, but we know what storm it is.
Right.
After that, there was a lot of fence damage, and if you go to the big box stores, for example, you can see, prior to this, there were big stacks of fence-type materials.
They're coming.
Yeah.
They're coming. That's the good news. So no matter where the storm is in the United States, the supplies are coming, because you'll have an area of the United States, they've got bundle after bundle, they don't need it, and then the big box will send it to where it's needed. So they're coming, and I would say it's only going to take a week to 2-3 weeks before our consumer can go back into the store and get exactly what they want every time. And the only way we get ahead of it is, as soon as I saw the hurricane coming, I bought, I don't know, $40,000 worth of bundles, and so we've got all the lumber we need. So this is what we commonly are finding everywhere, but we had the material hauled off.
And as we look, again, this was it has the appearance of being an original fence.
This is
so show me what you see with this fence.
Well, okay, so here's what this was. This is an HOA fence, or capped fence, and if you'll step to this side, you can see this was long overdue for replacement. Okay, so for whatever reason, it stood here you know, beyond its time. And the wind finally said enough is enough, and the wind took it out. But it wasn't that it was a tornado, it was just aged. And you'll start seeing, see how rotted that post is?
So there's no surprise that this post just snapped.
Hey, almost every time, Tom, as I they've pulled them all, but almost every time if you find one, you'll see, and you don't have to show all that, but you'll see that, well, here's an example. Look how this one's rotted away. That's what happens when they stand in water.
So because of all the calls, because of the, in some cases, shortage of materials, you were telling me on the phone, there's a wait list. If you've got a fence and you don't have something lined up already, what should the expectation be?
Well, to be candid, if you're wanting a reputable company, any company, I don't care the biggest ones in our town or the small, if they're reputable, they probably got liability insurance. Here's why that matters. If they're reputable, they're going to be tied up for the next 6 to 8 weeks. They're tied up, okay? Doesn't mean they can't fit a repair in. We're going to be doing that as well. We'll fit in a little repair here and there. But if you're having a whole project like this particular one, this whole yard, I think, was 140 feet, 149 feet. This yard will be about the same. So those are one-day projects for each one of those. And so you're really going to have to wait to get on a 6 to 8 week list. I mean, it's just the way it is.
So a month and a half to 2 months, is the wait right now.
That is the wait to get with a reputable. Now, this will be another line that they're doing. And so this piece, the other side piece, and one other piece you didn't see, is about 140 feet. And they'll have it all finished today.
It's a one-day turnaround.
One day. This project's a one day.
So you're able to set the posts.
Yes.
You have you're using
this is fastcrete,
a concrete
quick
mix.
Crete, yes.
Yep. Okay. So it.
Now, hey, on the DIY guy. So you've seen a product. I've seen it advertised. It's a foam product.
Sure. Yeah.
A lady caught us the other day. She had her post put in that foam. And she said, my fence is falling over. My guys went across the street. She was an elderly woman, went across the street. And her fence was falling over because that foam had been there a year, dried out, and you could take pieces of it, Tom, and just pull it out of the hole.
Oh, no kidding.
So we reposted her fence for her. You're welcome to try. And so this particular HOA guideline allows up to 6.5 feet with a baseboard, a 2x6 baseboard. This particular fence is going to be a 6-foot fence like it was originally, and we will keep that height consistent. But we try to run with the soil line. What we don't like to do is leave a bunch of gaps underneath, trying to maintain some level that the soil is going in different directions. We don't do that. Reputable. Now here's what'll happen. And it's almost good. It's sometimes bad on the outcome. You'll get a landscaping group. They're like, hey, we used to do fences, right?
Right.
And they'll get out there and they'll put them up and they'll be fine.
Or they'll knock on your door and they'll say, hey, I see you got a fence down.
Until they fall over, or until they hit a utility line and they're not protected. All of this happens. So if there were any one message I would give anybody that's going to work on their fence, call 811. Texas 811, call 811. If your contractor does not notify 811, do not use that contractor. Because if you hit a utility, gas line's $1,200. That's where it starts. Cable, fiber optics, starts around $400. And if you didn't order the 811 and it's not marked and you dig and hit it, your consumer, you pay for it. And it gets expensive.
Speaking of expensive, you're not giving this stuff away. You are a business.
That's it. You got to stay open.
You're here to make money. What sort of expectation of cost for people who have never had to do this?
So we'll use this one as an example, if I may. So this has a cedar cap on it. It's a 3-rail cedar cap. That's going to run right now in our market around $35 a foot. Okay. The issue that
that's a linear foot.
Linear foot. Okay. I'm sorry. Linear foot with 3 rails with a cedar cap. Now you could put pine on as a cap. The drawback to pine, after the first year, the pine is going to try to lose its shape. It dries out. And that cedar will hold that shape. its entire 25 years, whatever. So most of our consumers prefer the cedar cap. It stays beautiful. So about 35 bucks is what I would say a reputable company is going to be at. You'll have the larger companies maybe more at 38 or 40, and the reason is they've got the manpower, they have the lumber. Now, here your consumer needs to remember that post standing there, any one of those posts probably run right now around $11. But I can tell you after our recent storms, they'll jump up to $21. Now, that's not as scary.
That's the 4x4.
That's
the
a
posts.
4x4,
Yes,
the post.
And they're 8 feet long.
They're 8 feet long, 8 to 10. Now, So this particular fence is Western Red Cedar pickets. You can see those there. Those run right at about $4. Now, the only reason that's so painful is on a 100-foot run, it's 220 of them on a 100-foot run. So if it only went up 20 cents times 220, you start really feeling it on the pickets.
Sure. These fences that I'm seeing right now, these are all contained on one property line.
Yeah, this is a shared line. Yes, sir.
There are a lot of times where you are sharing a fence with your neighbor.
That's correct.
Is there a hard and fast rule, or is there a custom? Is there a law? Because people are going to have to maybe knock on the door of somebody they've never met before and say, hey, let's take care of this fence.
This is a great time to know your neighbor, okay? So every HOA guideline, when you bought your house, when I bought my home, they gave you HOA guidelines, and what it says in that HOA guideline, if somebody will open it up and read what they signed, you're responsible for your portion of the fence. And to take it a step further, if you have a pool, a swimming pool, and you don't maintain your fence in the city of Sugar Land, you may receive a citation for violating. That's a safety issue if you don't maintain your fence. So when you have neighbors, thankfully in most cases, I'm going to say 85 to 90% in this area, they always jump in. They're like, hey, I'll do my part, you do your part, and it's not a problem. Every once in a while, it's a problem.
So, but play nicely, as we've tried.
Nice.
As we've tried to do over the last week, as
Play
we have
nice.
this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
And usually the nice will work.
A nice will always work and win. It's never fun when it's ugly. Now, I ask that people always consider the economy of your neighbor. There are a lot of tough times, you know that, Tom. There are tough times that we're all going through, but it may not be so hard on you or on me, but it may be tough on your neighbor. So if your neighbor is looking at having to spend $850 for his part or whatever, just consider that. And if you need to do a temporary fix while they're getting recovered, just consider that patiently, because it's a lot of money. That's expensive lumber.
And for a lot of people, the hardship has piled up in the past week.
It is. Look, homeowners insurance, gas, you name it. You don't have electricity, you got to buy a generator, you got to put gas in that. You lost all your food in your refrigerator. It's a tough time, you know. So yeah, it's expensive, and play nice.
If you don't want to wait, you can't wait. The DIY option is always a choice. You may find yourself in a Home Depot. We are in the Sugar Land one along the Southwest Freeway. Chuck Earp is the manager of this and lots of stores. Thanks for letting us come in.
Not a problem. Glad to have you.
We appreciate that. So as we stand around here, there are already a bunch of people. Here we are almost 2 weeks after the hurricane, and they're still getting fence supplies.
Absolutely, and to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to slow down any time. Our projections kind of look out and really trying to figure out where we're going to land at with this. But our biggest goal is to try to keep everything in stock that we have for the needs of to build the fence, to make sure we get people back to whole again and make get our backyards back in place.
So you were telling me an interesting anecdote that in the immediate aftermath, people got a fence that's laying down. They got a dog they got to keep corralled in their yard. So there was kind of a Band-Aid effort. What were people doing there?
A huge influx of T-posts, temporary fencing, really people coming in just to try to get it secured in the meantime until they can get their contractor out, or until they had time off of work or whatever the situation may be, to help them put their fence back together.
So if I'm one of those people and I'm looking at my fence, I want to do it myself. I don't want to wait for a contractor to make time for me. And again, the wait, I'm being told, is 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just overloaded. So if I come in and say, I got to do a fence, where do I start with you all? You've got some folks who can kind of guide me?
Absolutely. All of our pro desks are set up with excellent associates that can help guide us in the right direction to give you the quantities of product you need and give you a quote on what you might need to put that together. All of our stores in the impacted area are set up with drive-throughs, to where you can come in, buy the product you need at the register, pull up under the canopies, and we're going to help you load that product up right then and there. But we do have a team put together at our pro desk. Feel free to come in and join any of them. Talk to any of them, and I'll definitely get you that product list that you might need to help put that together. It could be anywhere from one panel to one post, or just some pickets you need to put back together. And they can help guide you with the tools you'll need and the supplies you'll need to help put that back together.
So one thing that a lot of people need to consider is what their HOA requirements are. Some HOAs say, oh, it's got to be a cedar and it's got to be X feet tall, and others are a little more flexible. So how helpful, how essential is it that they have that sort of guideline when they come in to talk to you?
Very helpful, especially if they have a replacement requirement. A lot of places, from a replacement standpoint, will let you just replace panel for panel. If you're adding anything new, they would definitely recommend contacting them, and then also just contact them just in case. Especially if something's blown down and you have to replace, I would definitely refer to them, because you don't want to have anyone coming back and having issues with their HOA.
How is the price of lumber affected these days versus what we were looking at 2-3 years ago?
From a price standpoint, we're back down to a lot of pre-COVID prices with all of our product. Nothing's, the price we had 2 weeks ago before the hurricane is the same price we have now. So there's no raising prices because of the need of product. And we're just trying to pump that product in here to help everybody get back to home.
Let's talk about what other resources are available in difficult times for homeowners, and they've got to repair, undo some damage. How far in advance and I don't know that it's happening on the regional level here, or the local level, versus a national office saying they're going to have problems in Texas. We need to surge material in there, or how does that all work? As best you can tell me.
So we do have regional associates, regional managers that help kind of guide all that stuff, push in the product that we need, anywhere from fencing products to ACs, generators, chainsaws, whatever that is. We have Home Depot has a strong, this isn't Home Depot's first hurricane. They have a strong storm center, that we put in place to help aid the stores. So that way, all we have to do at the store level is say, hey, we need this. We're seeing this go, and they're pumping that product into us.
So there is a system in place that kind of gets triggered when a storm approaches, whether it's the Gulf Coast or any place else.
Absolutely.
And you got to plan. Some of our other friends in the community, HEB comes to mind. They've got a very, very robust disaster team. You do as well.
Absolutely.
So if I'm coming in here and I'm looking for something that has nothing to do with disaster relief, that I'm waiting for a shipment of widgets, and there's no market for widgets right now. Am I going to have to wait for that potentially?
No, the widgets are still going to be on our regular freight flow, and we're still getting our regular freight trucks in, as well as the influx of, treated lumber, ACs, generators, stuff. We're still getting our normal shipments in, so it's not going to slow anything down.
Okay, but in this immediate aftermath, you've got fencing, your ACs, roofing, tarps if I got to have a Band-Aid.
Absolutely.
Anything else that's coming to mind that I'm not mentioning?
Not right now. Pre-hurricane, there was some different strategies.
Generators as well.
Generators, batteries, water. We stock a lot of that stuff. A lot of people are coming in for that stuff.
What does history tell you how long this heightened need will last?
From my point of view as a store manager, I don't see a lot of that predictions, but from what I gather, in my estimation, we're still waiting on insurance payments. There's still a lot of people that have a lot of damage from their roofs and their fencing. And what does that look like? I don't have a guesstimate, but unfortunately, I can see that. I don't see this ending from the influx of need of product anytime soon.
And whether they're doing the work themselves or they're hiring a contractor, all of those people can come find their way in here
Absolutely.
and say, look, I need whatever it is.
Absolutely. We serve the do-it-yourselfer, and we definitely take care of our contractors too. So the contractors that you're waiting on we're waiting on them to make sure they have the product they need to get the homeowners back in, again, to get that backyard whole, so you guys can start enjoying the backyard again.
Well, on behalf of do-it-yourselfers everywhere, Chuck, we appreciate having you here as a resource.
Absolutely.
2-3 months, are we going to remember this?
Yeah, well, here's the only reason we'll remember it. We may remember this fun interview and conversation, but we'll probably be on to the next concern. You with me?
Oh, I am. I'm
Hopefully,
knocking on wood, man.
yeah. Hopefully not. But the truth is, the way you know how life is, it's from this emergency to this emergency. Now that the power's back on, we actually were having to do all this work with generators.
Right.
So I'm so thankful we have power again, that these guys can all work.
And that's another issue altogether. William Ferguson, thanks for coming
You're
to Tom's
beautiful.
DIY
Thank you,
Garage.
Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
You got it, brother.